of you know that it is thanks to the love and support of this community that we were able to build a village for special needs children out in Tanzania. That village now provides a safe and loving home to nearly 200 children that were living in crisis. Most of these children are special needs, but a lot of these children were homeless, and the majority have no parents or guardians in this world other than the family that this community has allowed us to create. Everything that we do to support these children is made possible by this community and those who choose to share what they can and get involved and become, as I often call it, in their own way, a percentage of the parental role for these little ones. For those of you who are already partnering with us, thank you for the love and support. But for those of you who don't know about it, everything that we do is made possible thanks to partners, those who choose to partner with our family and with it make everything that we do possible and keep our doors open for the next children who need some help or a safe and loving family home. If you'd like to hear more about our partnership program, you can do so by visiting www.sharetanzania.com/partnership. Thank you for all of the love and support, guys. We couldn't do this without you. God bless. Blessed are the peacekeepers, for they will be called the sons of God. The peacekeepers are those among us who transcend the knowledge of good and evil operating system, the duality. A profound example of this is to watch the conflict between Israel and Hamas. Well-meaning, good-hearted people are drawn with their awareness into these traumatic events, and they take a side. And as they take a side in duality, they find ways to justify killing, violence, hatred, anger. And as that conflict continues to go on, and the suffering continues to manifest, the fallen ones cackle and rub their hands together, as the energy they need is being supplied in abundance not only by the suffering men, women and children involved in that conflict, but in the frequency reverberating from those who attach to one of the sides or the other. A peacekeeper is one such as Christ, who says, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." If the manifestation of divinity said this to the leaders of Hamas and Israel, what they would ultimately be saying is, transcend your dualistic conflict and stand in compassion. Transcend the illusion of the fallen world and its dualistic state, the knowledge of good and evil operating system afflicting you, and stand with the soul awareness that you are before you were incarnated into this realm. One of the key problems with this, and mankind understanding it, is the religious and the spiritual communities often claim that God in this world is all-powerful. When you say that God is all-powerful, you end up with millions of people kneeling and praying and petitioning God to do what they want. Please God, make this possible. Please God, take this out of my life. Please God, heal this person. Please God, subdue my enemy. As we kneel in this way and petition God, we are engaging in the image that God is all-powerful, and you must knock on the door and try to convince. But the true power of man is harmonic attunement with the power of the source code, the Christ, the Creator, and then approaching your problems as an extension of it. So you speak to your situation, you speak to your problem about the power and the authority of Creator, or with the power and the authority of Creator. For you become the Christ in human form. You become a vessel, an opening for its power, the source code, to change the course of reality. Not that you plead with an external source code to come and change it, but you allow that source code to be you in this time, in this human shape and form you formerly mistook as a personal identity. And you allow it to drive your life with its power, its force, and its authority in this realm. But then you are left with those who feel that it is an insult to the Creator to say they are not all-powerful. But I perceive that the Creator's power here works through law. And the Creator's power has been restricted through technology in the lives of man. Technology in our own hands, but also technology from a dimension that few of us have gone to. Technology from intelligence far more advanced than our own. And using certain electronic veils over the whole of existence, have these fallen ones, we will call them, have created an overlay on original creation that causes a distance between mankind and their Creator. And then beyond their technological adjustments to the very species that we are, adjustments to our DNA, to our genetics, has also led the species we are to be distant from Creator by certain subtle manipulations of the brain, of the mind, and of the genome. This enters a realm that many fear, for now you are saying that science can compete with the power of God. But let us go together in peace and unity and explore this topic. If the Creator, the Christ, that which incarnates in accordance with Christianity in the form of Yeshua, and whilst here, any fallen code that came across the source code in human form was opposed and deleted, sickness. Any fallen way of following duality was opposed. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. This is a place in consciousness of freedom from the slave technology embedded in mankind. But if the Creator is all-powerful, you are left with a very unfortunate state when it comes to application of logic. If the Creator is all-powerful, then the children that we have provided a family for whilst following the Creator's will, who were raped, who were tied up in the dark, who were abused in ways you can't imagine day after day for years on end, that all of that was the will of a Creator, that this is what Creator wanted. so that I could come along in later life and learn some lesson from rescuing them. This means that Creator has stimulated every single war, every rape, every child molestation, every child trafficked. If Creator is all-powerful in this realm, every trafficked child, every abused child, every murdered child, man or woman or child for that matter, was all the Creator's will. And this makes no sense. This is a religious image of God, a religious image of a man in the sky organizing everything. But this great love and compassion of Creator that I know is restricted here. Even in my own life, I see it. I know that which Creator wishes to see manifest in the shape and form of this human sitting here talking, and the light that gazes through the eyes of this human sitting here talking, the same light that gazes through your own. I am aware what is needed. However, I have a collection of memories that I can call a personal history. And due to a certain anatomical arising in the body that I claim is part of the fall, a genetic affliction to create a slave species, I perceive that this hardware wishes to generate an image of who and what I am, and allow that image to determine and dictate the movement of my intelligence and actions here and now. But this is akin to looking down to a boat. You are the boat that the Creator needs to use, and the Creator needs to take the wheel, the connection to the divine will, and determine where you will go. The wake behind the boat is your personal history and your personal identity. If that wake starts bringing data and information forward into the captain of that vessel, then the captain may turn left when here and now, connected to the superconsciousness of all creation, the living God, the source code, needed the captain to turn right. And so I have seen in my own life that my own personal history and thought, ultimately, and memory, will often try to challenge that which the connection to the source code, the living God here and now, has asked. It may have asked me to go here and do this, and if the memory is allowed to run on its own course, it will drag in data and information from the personal history that can alter the agreement of that movement that the divine will has stimulated inside of us. And so even on a macro scale, I am aware that within inside my own vessel, that my own mind and memory can interfere with the Creator's plan for the human organism that I am. And the Bible agreed. It says, "For the carnal mind is enmity to the laws of God." This means that the carnal mind is not subject to God's law. This is the first point of recognizing why deception and corruption and enslavement and rape and murder and child trafficking and all these heinous things take place. Because the mind forms an image of a personal meanness, and that personal meanness, when it's rigidly in the throne of life, separates the heart and the awareness from the presence of the living God. And in that state where the mind is sitting in the space within you where the wholeness of unity with Creator, the living God here and now, wishes to be, you feel a great void, an emptiness that needs to be filled. and you will try to fulfill this through the pursuit of the world. And if that which you in your temporary identity sitting in the throne of life perceives will make it fulfilled or safe or whole is unattainable, you may be lured and tempted into using any tactic possible to reach the end of the void, even though it never will be. For that void is a bottomless pit of human desire. Many enter positions of power and they sense this void and they say, if only I can attain more money, if only I can attain more material power, then I will be there. And when you live under that guise from the fallen programmer within you, from the operating system of the knowledge of good and evil, there, if you absolutely believe that all will be well if you just attain something that the temporary identity has told you you must attain, you will be happy to use deception and betrayal to try and attain it. The Creator is not all-powerful in the 3D matrix that we dwell within. The knowledge of good and evil operating system is an affliction within us that makes you believe wholeheartedly that you are this body and mind, that you are this personal history, be it positive or negative. And those who become deeply traumatized and can't get free of the personal history driving them, you will find that they are persistently verbalizing that personal history to try and get free of it, to try and get it away from the loving awareness that they truly are, that needs a break from the mind. For the awareness has entered the mind and it's now in a chaotic washing machine, just tumbling around in the story of me. But if the awareness finds some break to become aware of the temporary identities, to become aware of the memories, to become aware of the thoughts, to become aware of all of those identities within thought and memory, then a natural distance appears where you begin to enter the spirit operating system. In other words, you begin to overcome the higher dimensional slave technology within inside the fallen vessel of man that has us chaotic in what the Buddhists called the monkey mind. As you become aware of it all and your body and your sensations, you recognize that you are not the mind and the stories, or the body and its sensations, for you are that which is aware of them. That which is aware of them is the awareness that looks through the eyes of a baby and the awareness that looks through the eyes of a serial killer. It is the exact same awareness, it is the exact same consciousness, but the only problem is that one has yet to have built any image of temporary identities, and so its light and its love is felt in a room with a newborn child, whereas the murderer has built temporary images attached to them so violently that the light that they are is now cocooned in this labyrinth of separation and darkness and rebellion. The problem we have is we have mystic states of consciousness. Those who achieve it through psychedelics and not through hardship, I have seen go down this road. I am not demonizing ceremonial use of some substances in this world, for the record. I have seen people be changed beyond comprehension off the back of some of these substances that the Creator has made available in this reality. When, in the life of this human, sitting here and sharing with you as I am, when the human vessel has gone through prolonged hardship. Perhaps we can say prolonged water fasting. Or perhaps you can say when you see the light of being able to function without the duality, where you stand with the compassion, not with the dualistic conflicts that generate the energy the fallen ones want. When you see that light manifesting in you and through you, you become very aware that you should maintain it. And when you live from that light, the Creator and the source code, however you wish to term it, may drag you into a mission. And after months of being battered and bruised in that mission in service to love, you are gaining insight into the importance of placing that love and love for others before the personal image that the hardware wants to create. Biblically, it sorts this with James 1:27. It says the highest form of religion, the highest form, is to serve the needy and stay unpolluted from the world. When you serve without even meditation and fasting, when you open a door and a child who can't walk or talk is laid there covered in excrement and has been beaten and burnt and raped or whatever else, a love opens inside of you that is not so familiar to most of humanity. It's a love that says, I love you, I need and I want and I expect nothing from you. And when that love opens up, you are nourished. You need no safety, you need no opulence, you need no comfort. It is giving you it from an internal place. It is the Creator's love through you for them, and you feel it. Now, if you achieve an awakening without that, without those prolonged journeys of hardship, I moved due to the sun glaring in my eyes. And so in this space where you enter unity consciousness through, say, a psychedelic, or through being blessed enough to sit in an ashram setting, be it even your own garden, and simply be in the bliss of the presence of Creator, it's very easy there to not see the war. And it's very easy to believe, therefore, that Creator is all-powerful. And therefore, in this realm, it's easy to believe or come up with ideas as to why things are happening, that it's all a lesson from Source, as you have touched that unity consciousness, but you haven't yet learned from the battle, from the war. And therefore, when you gaze in on the war from an external position, you can say, well, this is a lesson, for there is only unity consciousness, there is only Creator, and this human being here, they have suffered in the way they have due to their karma or because they needed to learn a lesson. And there God becomes this profound monster that stimulates my heart to rescue children that He made into a position that needed rescuing, like a computer game. And this is not the evidence I have of my Creator. My Creator is aggressively, violently opposed to the suffering of these children. And so I mention technology. If I am to raise the argument that Creator is not all-powerful, and that's why babies are born with parasites that ensure they die horrible, miserable deaths with a short life. That children are born with infections they will never sidestep. That children are born to mothers who are too malnourished to give their milk, so they're going to starve to death. That children are born into captivity where they will be raped and abused and psychologically turned into another monster in this world. If we are to say Creator is all-powerful, And we are to say that Creator is behind all of that. It's not so. Now, infinite potential and free will was a gift from Creator for life to have meaning. We are here, we are in that infinite potential and free will. But on a macro scale, look around you. We've already begun to interfere with our intelligence and our creation, with the natural order of things. And we have begun to create our own simulated realities with computers, etc., computer games. And we have also begun to genetically modify ourselves. The work has begun to alter the genome, the DNA of what we are. If we, with our limited intelligence, have achieved this, what about intelligence from another dimension? And if you are religious, the fallen angels and Satan must be brought into the topic. Who are they? What are these terms pointing at? I perceive from multiple factors that we are in a reality that has been, at the very source code level, hacked by a fallen advanced programmer. But the problem with presenting that information is that we have a divide, as there are those who will live by the five senses and the mind as the driver of their life, and thereby their bandwidth of reality they experience is restricted. And so they perceive that everything you say is bending the truth. In the same way an atheist thinks that the story of an afterlife is a way of comfort that somebody fabricated at one point, completely excluding the near-death experiences or the outer-body experiences or those who have lived in the other realm, where analysis and mind is not the master, but surrender and unity is, and what they bring back to this dimension. This is why Plato wrote The Cave. Plato's allegory of the cave is a perfect example of those who see the shadows of the wall, live based on a personal history and an ego as the driver of life and the full identity, disconnected from the unity with that void present within them. And so they only see the shadows of our reality. They don't see the full bump of awakening and realize the mystery of it. When we have these times of out-of-body experience, in my life a prolonged water fast was the main one that brought me to the truth of where I was. My consciousness, my loving awareness that looks through my eyes and speaks now, and I hope animates the intelligence of the one speaking, separated from the body. And as it did, I understood why that is the fallen world. And I understood when Yeshua said, you must overcome the world. You don't overcome it with this. You overcome it by overcoming the five senses and the mind, and then the world can't anchor you to it. And there it's as if your consciousness lives in spirit a few inches outside of your body, and you perceive reality totally differently. And when you come back to your body, everything the world has to offer you to chain you back to the five senses and to this fallen matrix, everything the world has to drag you into that connection loses its flavor. It does not mean that temptation will never come, but it means overall, when you get away from the chaos of the world, you recognize again that this world has nothing to offer. That the fallen world, that Maya, that the flesh, Buddha, Jesus, whatever term you want to use, have used, it has nothing to offer the truth of what you are. And there you become the master of the five senses and the mind. It never is your master. And when you, the awareness, is the master of that. You can't be dragged so easily into deception, duality, rivalry, war, conflict. You always have a hunger and a wisdom to understand that let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Stand in compassion always. Don't be drawn into the knowledge of good and evil operating system and the conflicts that feed the fallen ones from there. And so, you may be asking, what is this technology then, aside from genetics? Well, I've tried to piece this puzzle together over the years, and the way I perceive it is this. The Bible is speaking about Christ, the anointing. Within inside the human vessel there is a secretion that gives you the higher mind access. The higher mind access allows you to see without descending into duality. This chrism is crucified in your skull at the top of the 33rd vertebrae. Jesus is crucified at age 33 at Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Jesus takes 5 wounds on the cross. You must overcome your 5 senses for the Christ to animate your vessel. To live within you, your 5 senses must not be master. You must have those 5 wounds. That secretion seems to have been limited within us, and it is triggered when the moon passes through certain star constellations based upon the point when you were incarnate here in this extraction matrix. So as the moon passes Aries in the life of the human sitting here talking, who incarnated and opened eyes and took a breath when the moon was in Aries, the secretion is released. Now the secretion can be burned up. It can be used up by living from malice and anger, by overconsumption of the finite resources available through gluttony and drunkenness. All of this can separate you from the Christ, for you are chasing within the comfortable prison cell of worldly desire an answer to the void that only the Christ, the unity with the source code, can fulfill. And so I perceive this clearly not organic, natural occurrence of our moon is a man-made structure to create in part the overlaid reality to enslave our species. We must have that secretion for the body to be hospitable to the light of God, the soul that incarnates within it. We must have that. But we must not have enough that we always hear Creator's voice. For if we always are open to the narrow way, then we will not choose to take the light of God and sell it as parcels into the possession of the satanic energy extraction matrix that we live within. If the presence of Christ is too loud, you will not indulge in the pursuit of the comfortable prison cell of worldly desire, where you bring the light into a frequency range that the fallen ones can access it. And so the secretion must be for the soul to enter the body, yet it must be restricted to ensure that the soul is not persistently hearing Creator, for there you no longer have your slave. And so it was a balancing act to manifest the slave species of humanity. I perceive we have been to some degree rescued by the angelic species out there. That the fallen species were chastised for what they did to us. But they are still here in the same way we can't even protect a nature reserve without poachers coming. This world is protected by higher dimensional beings or the other areas of the cosmos sentient life. But they can't guarantee our safety. For it is akin with us. Unless our own society is stable, we can't protect the forest. They have the same problems and conflicts. That technology, if you imagine we build a supercomputer and it can hack the very fabric of all existence. It can hack nature. It can hack seeds, it can hack trees, it can hack weather patterns. It can hack the very light that we see refracting back to our eyes from trees and the ground and the sky. And it can create a new composite of reality where the original reality is there, but this new hijacked original reality is also present. And there, in the pursuit of the light of God as an energy to fuel their sojourn of rebellion and attempt to create their own worlds, which they are, worlds where they can live perceivably eternally, they need energy. And the energy is not freely given due to the abuse of free will and infinite potential that is taking place. And so technologically they've worked out how to harvest that energy. So they move from planet to planet. They have sentient life in that planet. You have the sun shining, growing food for that life to exist. You have technology that we don't grasp that accesses the spiritual realm and is dragging souls into the fallen slave species that you have genetically created in the fall of man. And as they enter into those bodies, they become amnesic of where they are from, and they continue to choose the world over the Creator. Their vitality is not stored up and used for the will of Creator in unity and surrender. It is burned up in riotous living and sold endlessly into the possession of the fallen ones as a drug and an energy source. That technology is not hard to imagine when you look at where we are. And if humanity with our intelligence has the problems that we do and is creating what we are, what is accessible from another dimension or a hyper-advanced species? Why would the fallen angels not pursue technology if we've had such great benefit from it? And thereby, by hacking the source code in the same manner that you could place a man in chains and you could sit him in front of a screen showing him traumatic images over and over again, you can separate that man psychologically from any notion of love, unity and peace. You can make a human live in a perpetual hell on earth until they die, and they will not know any notion of a compassionate creator until they disconnect from the body and meet that compassion. But whilst here, technology can separate a man from God in that way if we so decide to harness it to do so. And the fallen programmers and the fallen species that obey that way of consciousness, that road, they have done exactly the same to humanity. And therefore, in this reality, God is not all-powerful. And that's important, because for God to be all-powerful, you must become a vessel to allow the source code to arrive here. And only sentient life with free will can bypass that technology to allow the source code's will to manifest here. And so instead of us praying to an external God, sort this out, we align through fasting, through prayer, through overcoming the flesh and the world, so the source code can animate our intelligent speech and pass through our vessel into this world filled with fallen programs. And the more accurate we get at alignment with the source code over our memory and personal history and our arrogance and our ego, the more likely we are to see miracles, as there the source code changes the very fabric of reality, completely alters it. And we call that miraculous, for it seems to behave in a manner outside of physics. But the colossal problem for all of man is that the hardware within us that generates a self-image has sub-programs, and one of the biggest sub-programs that we cannot overcome is arrogance. And so to hear this, we arrogantly say, I have not seen that, and therefore it can't be. This is ridiculous, this is stupid, I'm not even going to explore it. But the truth is that that arrogance has convinced you to believe that this matrix is original and that you are from it. And it does it subtly, using thought. If you teach a child the word tree, they will immediately not see it ever again until they can see it without that word. The word makes the child believe they know. You're walking along and you all of a sudden find for the first time in your life a tree. So no one's taught you the word. You will see it and you'll be mesmerized by it, the wonder of it. What on earth is this? You will sit with it. You will feel into it. You will appreciate it, and you will burn with love for the mystery of it and the sacredness of it. And then someone comes along and says, this is just a tree. We know what that is. And so now the child no longer burns with wonder and mystery and says it's a tree. But this is arrogant. For what is the tree made of? Well, if one mind is programmed to be a carpenter, it's made of wood, it's utilitarian. If another mind is a forest guardian who protects trees, it's made of life force and mystery. The word, the application of the word overlay of reality that our brain causes and creates, separates us from it. And the separation from reality causes a separation from the creator of the reality. And so as we move through our day, tree, grass, sky, clouds, we no longer perceive the mystery of what we are in, and thereby we no longer energetically connect to it and recognize that it is us and we are it, and there you gather this new power of the source code within you. There you harmonically attune. But due to our words, and due to the subtle program software of arrogance, we don't see it. We are certain that we know who we are and where we are. I am in Tanzania. Where is it? It's in Africa. Where's Africa? It's on Earth. Where's Earth? It's in a solar system. Where's that? It's in a galaxy. Where's that? It's in a universe. Where's that? It's in a multiverse. Where's that? It's a game of reference. No matter what road you take as to a structure of the world you live in, you are going to run out of reference. And when you run out of reference, what are you left with? A destabilized knowledge of good and evil self-image. A destabilized knowledge of evil operating system. For now you've entered back to the truth of humility. Of, I don't even know who and what and where I am. But in faith I can be led by that which created it. But if you believe the arrogance of the labels constantly without a break, that image will take the driving seat of life. And the higher dimensional slave technology, the slave self of man, will be in charge. And it will continue to take sides in duality. It will continue to not fulfill the will of Christ driving the boat, but allow its own polluted, contorted personal history wake of the boat to come forward and afflict the presence of God's love in this reality. For God's love needs an opening, and as it finds you as the opening and it says, go and love that man, all of a sudden the mind can kick in and say, no, don't do that. I don't like him because he said this. And so God's love is diminished. God's will is diminished by the structure of thought. And we are trying to organize everything through thought. But when you sidestep that hardware of the knowledge of good and evil operating system and you awaken into that space whereby you are merely lovingly aware of this great mystery and you sense this sacred power and love and energy behind it all, and you feel it coming forth through your cells and your intelligence and your speech, there you are guided by God, for God so guides the humble. And there is no you to be not humble in that state of consciousness. It's emptiness, and yet In that emptiness you are all things, for God has filled you. And there the Creator will say, turn left, and you in faith will say, okay, for I know that you know better. And I know that this slave technology within me has limitations. You are not a personal identity dressed in the clothes and shape you are. You are if you stand aside from duality and insist that all warring, conflicting parties stand with compassion until compassion and loving awareness reorganizes the situation. You are a peacemaker. And blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God. For peacemakers stand with the frequency of God and do not interfere with it, with dualistic conflict and the knowledge of good and evil operating system that gives birth to that unfortunate way of perceiving this wonderful reality where we are united with our Creator in eternal bliss and in a peace if we so wish. But then as you hear that and you want it, the voice will go, so now what do I do? And the voice belongs to the wake. The voice belongs to the one that is in the way of that peace and love. And if you sense that and you say, yes, you're right. So how do I get rid of that voice? There's the voice again. It is an automatic process. You need only be humble. You need only say no to the five senses and its ways. Become aware of the mind and its deceptive, corruptive ways. Become aware of the mind and its addictions to memories and anticipation of pleasure. And as you become aware, you open up. You separate from all of that chaos of the fall. And you become aware of it all. And when you are aware of it, it cannot have any power over you. For you have disabled the technology. And you have transcended your dimensional reach to beyond the origin of the technological overlay, so you can look back down upon the fallen ones and their fallen matrix. You can see it all. And they fear that above all things, for there you can bring source code in here and they can't do anything to stop that source code. For their fallen programmer operates from the fourth dimension and you're bringing in source code from a place that even created dimensions, a power beyond it all, beyond time, space and matter. And they can't stop that. Once it is brought in from upstream in the river of light, it will take a hold in this world. But keeping that channel open for the source code, it's profoundly difficult. For as soon as it comes on the radar of the fallen, that there is one that has opened up a channel to the source code, to the Christ in this world, the fallen will target that individual. It will crush their bodies, their health, their lives. It will attack them. It will try to kill them if it must. For they fear above all things humanity finding the narrow way where we all awaken and recognize the reality of where we are incarnating. You are not incarnating in a country in earth. You're in this huge spiritual sacred mystery. You are a spiritual sacred force in this world that the fallen are terrified of awakening. You are not a nationality or a birth certificate. You are the sons of God. But only upon transcending the knowledge of good and evil, transcending the duality that has caused every conflict, war, divisive, separated state within all of mankind. For thought interrupts the unity of the mystery by trying to organize it, trying to analyze it, trying to observe it. And instead of being one with all creation and an extension of the Creator within creation, you become an analyzer, analyzing subject of analysis. You are distant. And there the void comes, there the temptation comes, there you continue to surrender your energy to the fallen. God is not all-powerful, but if you understand the importance of that, you will become the power of the source code instead of calling out for it. You will speak to your situation and that power will come forward and alter and change it. I shall leave it there. All is well. God is good. But understand there is a restriction here. Don't explain away the sufferings and the ghastly events of this world by putting them at God's table and saying it must be His will because He's all powerful. Creator is all places at all times, but functions through laws. That's why good people and bad people can fall and they'll both die. Law. And there are those who through technological and intellectual advancement have manipulated those laws. And it is time for us to awaken to that, so we understand our enemy is not our fellow man, but it is the spiritual wickedness in high places. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness in high places. It is that higher dimensional force plugging the loving awareness of man into a maze where we enter duality, where we enter conflict, separation, division, a void from Creator, and we pursue in the world to fulfill the void, and we hurt each other, we deceive one another, we kill one another, and the fallen ones, brilliant. I'm getting my energy this week. Look, even the Christians, even the Muslims, even the Jews, they're all saying that this one deserves to die, this one, and our loving God is completely absent, for no one stands with compassion. For they aren't standing with God, they're standing with the image of God, based in the dualistic hardware of the knowledge of good and evil operating system. I shall leave it there. I love you all. I know in and of my life, God is all powerful, but only because people around me allow for that force to come through. But we are at war with those who do not. And therefore you cannot say that it's all just a lesson when a child is abused and raped, etc. It's not a lesson. It's not a lesson. It's not. It's a state of rebellious, partitioned consciousness that we must overcome with the love of Christ. I'll leave it there. God bless you all.